Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I'm going to show you how you can make this easy spiral braided bracelet using some 2mm cord from our sponsor Paper Mart. You can find them online at www.papermart.com. I love their selection of satin cord and you cannot beat the price, and of course the more you buy the more you save. So if you are really getting into this craft, you might want to buy a bunch of it. It's super fun for camp activities or slumber parties. In fact, the tool we're going to use actually came from a kid's craft kit. My daughters had this slumber party friendship bracelet kit, and it came with these little braiding discs. If you don't have one of these though, don't worry. Just go to your recycling bin, get a piece of cardboard, cut a circle about the size of a saucer, and cut a hole in the middle, and then just make some slits all around the outside. You don't have to have this tool, but it's fun to use if you do it. It keeps your threads nice and tight while you're working. You're going to need a couple of ends, and I'm using these little kind of flat cones. I got them at the craft store. You're going to want some craft wire. You're going to need some glue, and I'm using a Beacon 3-in-1, but just kind of like a strong, kind of thick glue that will kind of hold your kind of stop the ends from fraying and hold them in the little ends while you're working. It's not that structural. The wire that we're using is going to be holding most of the strength, but you do need a glue for that. And we're also going to use the toggle portion of a toggle set. So this would be the whole toggle set. This was a set that I didn't really care for the loop parts, so I'm just actually going to be using that end. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is cut our thread, and we're going to need about 5 to 6 feet of each of these colors. Now, just to show you for a reference, I have a very small wrist. So this was I used 4 feet of each color here. So but you probably want it a little bit bigger. It's always better to go a little bigger and cut some off. So start off with about 5 feet of each color, and I have got a ruler here, so you can simply just wrap it around 5 times. It's a little easier than trying to use a tape measure. Alright, so we're just going to use the brown cord to measure our turquoise cord. This comes in so many pretty colors. There's even metallics, which are really nice. Okay, so now we have 2 strands of 5-foot long cords. Now, 5 foot's a great length. You don't want to go super long. You don't want to work off the spool in this case, because you'll end up with a tangled mess. And we need to double our thread in half. So I want you to grab the 2 ends together and then pull it so you find your midpoint. You're going to fold that in half, okay? And then you're going to find your second midpoint. Now here is where I'm going to use some wire. So I've just got some 20 gauge craft wire. 20 gauge is perfect for this. It's, you know, not too thick and bulky, but it's plenty strong. It's just a silver colored copper wire. And I am going to kind of wrap it around this midpoint a couple times, make sure it's nice and strong. Alright, and I'm actually going to pull up 1 loop here. Okay, because I want to make sure that my, and I could actually put the toggle end here if I wanted to, but I just want to make sure that I had a loop there that's going to be nice and strong, and I'm afraid the wire is not strong enough for this. And then I'm going to take those ends of the wire and just wrap it around as tight as I can with my hands, with my fingers, okay? Now I tried different methods. I tried knotting it, and I was just getting too much bulk. And then I'm gonna take my pliers and just kind of curve. This is my favorite pair. And curve those ends in. Okay, and then I want to kind of get these close together because I want to make sure they're going to, you know, I don't want the wire sticking out into my bracelet. I'm gonna squash it, and this is really what's gonna crimp those in there. That's what's really going to hold it. Okay? Now hopefully this will fit into my little end here. Let's hope. Cross your fingers, guys. Let's hope this works. Alright, so we're going to just push that right in there. We might need to use our pliers to help us really push it in, but you want it to be snug. Okay? Don't worry if you can see a little bit of that wire underneath. You just want it in there. And I can see I could pull on this, and that string isn't going to pull out further, so that's what we want. And there we can see we have a nice neat finish. So now what I'm going to do is pull it out enough that I can put some glue into my little cap. I'm going to use my beacon, you know, use whatever you have. You want something that's going to be clear. Some rude noises coming from my bottle of glue there. Just push that in there. And that's gonna, we don't have any loose ends here that would fray, but it's gonna help grab everything. I feel like I want a little more glue in there. I'm gonna try to just fill that cavity a little bit so it can just really grab it good. Okay, now what I want you to do is just kind of set this aside for a few minutes so the glue can set. So our glue is pretty well dry. This is our braiding disc, and what you want to do is drop that middle, or if you're just knotting your strings together, the knot goes in the middle, and we're going to separate our strings and put them around different portions of the wheel here. And it is like a wheel. You can kind of think of it as a wheel. Oh, you know what we didn't do though? We have to trim any place where we have a looped thread there, because we doubled it over, remember? So we got to cut that, because we're going to need to have all those strings loose. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two, and I want to kind of grab them how they're next to each other on the, coming out of the top there, coming out of the finding. I'm going to put two right there. Okay, I'm not pulling too hard because I didn't wait the full amount of time for it to dry. I wanted to make sure that you guys did, so practice what I preach. Do as I say, not as I do. Yeah, that's probably it. I should practice what I preach. I'm going to put my two brown ones over there. Just divide them out onto the loom here, onto the wheel. Do two there, and we're going to do two over here. And the foam will grab those really well. All right, so it kind of looks like a cross. All right, so your first step is to take the string on the right, so we're the one pointing away from us. I'm going to take the string on the right, we're going to lift it up and bring it down to the right of our bottom group of strings. So it's like we have north, east, south, and west. Okay, then we're going to lift up the one to the left on the bottom and bring it up to the left on the right, and then we're going to turn it to the left like we're turning a wheel. Okay, again, the top one comes down, bottom one goes up, and we turn. Top one comes down, bottom one goes up, and we turn. Top one comes down, bottom one goes up, and we turn. Top one comes down, bottom one comes up, and we turn. So you want to keep doing the same pattern until you have made your bracelet as long as you would like it. Oh, and if you find a point where you need to stop at this position where you've lifted it and brought it down. That way you'll know that you've just brought the top one down and this is the position that it should be with the single one pointing away from you. It will be helpful if you have to take a break and then come back to it. Every once in a while you might need to drag your fingers through the cords just to kind of keep them from getting tangled. But the satin cord doesn't want to tangle too easily, so that's really another one of the things that I like about the Paper Mart satin cord. I'm using the 2mm, by the way, but I think that the 1mm would probably be even nicer for this project. But I just find the 2mm to be such a versatile size. I can use it for pendants and so many other things, especially when I'm making lots of jewelry for kids and we're doing projects in a class. You know, make paper beads, and it's just such a great necklace cord. It slides really well for making adjustable knot necklaces. So that's why I get all my cord in 2mm. But if you're just gonna do the braided bracelets like this on a disc, you may prefer just getting your colors in the 1mm. But that's completely up to you. But I am using 2mm in case you're wondering. Now I'm going to flip this around so you can kind of see how our pattern is coming along. I would recommend pulling it from the loop rather than the finding at this point, just in case your glue isn't completely dry, but you can see how we have that nice pattern forming. Alright, now I'm going to continue on. You know what I did? I can tell, okay, say if you don't follow my advice, that I didn't follow my advice, I could see because the ones that are on top, those are the ones I just did, so I'll know to turn it and pull this one down next. So if you do find yourself in that situation like I was just in, where I didn't stop with 3 pulled down in one direction, you can kind of tell where you are just by looking at what strings are on the top. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to work off camera, finish working all these strings until they're short and they'll be ready to be taken off, and then we'll meet back up and I'll show you how to put that final finding on. Okay, here we are finishing up the bracelet. Now this is a little bit longer than the one I did before. Like this one here, this is probably more of a child size. It would just barely go on my wrist. It'd actually be a little too tight for me. So I wanted to make sure this next one was about an inch longer, which it is. Okay. So I've stopped my bracelet here. Remember, we take a break and we leave it so one singles is pointing away from us and we know that's where we are and we need to then do that. Alright, so this is what we have here. And we're going to cut a piece of wire while it's nice and secure there. It's not going anywhere. And I'm going to cut about a 6-inch piece of wire with my 3-in-1 tool here. Use your wire cutters or whatever you have, old pair of shears. And then I'm going to very gently take this off of my loom. And the nice thing about this is it keeps an even tension, and your homemade cardboard one will do the same thing, so don't feel like you have to run out and buy this. But it keeps a nice even tension, so your braid, even though like you may be a beginner and this may be the first bracelet you've ever made, it's going to have that nice even tension all the way through because the braiding disc is going to hold that for you. As opposed to, you know, have you ever done that where you pinned your friendship bracelet to your jeans and you start making the knotted bracelets and then you've got, it starts off kind of funky and then it gets really nice and neat looking towards the end. This keeps it so it's nice and neat the whole way through. Alright, so again, I'm going to wrap this tightly as I can with my fingers. I'm going to wrap underneath with one strand. I want to make sure I'm really getting those wraps nice and tight and close together. In with my, because once you get that bottom part wrapped, you don't have to worry about your ends so much. I tuck that little guy in, because I don't want anything that's going to poke anybody, and then I'm going to clamp it down as hard as I can. Okay, that's really what holds those ends in. I could probably unwrap that a little bit. Now I'm going to select one of these blue ends to hold my toggle. Then I'm going to trim the rest of them. And since I've already got them trapped in there, they shouldn't go too crazy on me. Just make sure you don't cut through that the wire or the one you're keeping. Okay. Now we're going to put our end on, and our wire's staying underneath here, and we're going to put our end on the cord, put that through. Then we're going to get our toggle on there. I've only, this is actually my third one that I've made, so you can see it's really pretty easy. I've always wanted to learn these discs, and I found a bunch of them when I was cleaning through my kids' craft stash, and I'm like, you know what, that would make a fun tutorial. I bet people would love to do that, especially with summer camps coming around and stuff. Alright, so I'm pulling that in pretty tightly. It's gonna, because I've got the end away from where I've wired that already, so I know I'm gonna have enough room when I'm all done, but I just want to make sure it's tight for now. It's going to loosen up as I go. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to take this wire here and I want to wrap it around my thread because I want to secure that down now. Okay, so I'm wrapping it around that wire that we that thread that's holding our toggle. We got to make sure that is nice and secure. Okay, so we're wrapping it by hand as well as we can. And then we're going in with our pliers to do the dirty work, to do the squishing. We want that squished down as good as we can, because we don't want a bunch of that poking out. We don't want to see it, because it's kind of messy. I'm going to hide it away in there. We're going to kind of push it in there into submission. So there, we've got plenty of wiggle room now for that toggle, but we can hide our wire in there. Alright, so now what I can do is I can snip that wire, that thread that's hanging out, because I know it's secured. And then I made a little loose piece, not loose, but it's kind of hanging down a little lower than I wanted, so I just bent that up over. But I'm sure you didn't do that because you were really paying attention and doing a good job. Alright, and now I'm going to put some glue into the end cap there, the little, whatchamacallit, bead cone. I think that's what it's called. Bead cone or end cone, end cap, I'm not sure. Little triangle cone thing you get at the bead store, that's what I call it. Alright, and then I can kind of get in there, pinch my wires if I need to flatten them a little bit more to make them fit. Now you might have the kind that are more round, you know, so, you know, just make sure that they'll fit in whatever size cone you get. And they actually make ends that have little loops on them that are fantastic, but I didn't have any of those. So if you're embarking on this project, you might want to go ahead and grab some of those. So of course you'd let that dry before you wore it, but I can show you just for the sake of this tutorial that you put our toggle in through that loop. And see, this is why we need the wiggle room, because we need to make sure that can slide through there. And there we have our bracelet. So this is a much bigger size for an adult. We've got the smaller size for a child, or for a very small wristed adult. Probably more for a child. I think this would be a little too tight on me, honestly. And that's something you have to be aware of. If you make bracelets to sell, you have to make sure that they'll fit your customers. That happens to me all the time. It's like, I'll put these bracelets out, it's like, oh, those aren't going to fit anybody except a child, because I have small wrists and I use myself as a model. But there you go, Mommy and Me set. That'd be nice for Mother's Day even. But I think this is just such a fun craft for sleepovers and summer camps, and you know, you can make this out of cardboard. So if you want to do this right away with your kids, make some donuts out of cardboard, cut some slits on the side, and you'll be good to go. Again, I'm using the 2mm satin cord from Paper Mart. I'll put a link below in the video description so you can find it. I want to thank you so much for watching. Please give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and go check out Paper Mart. You can find them at www.papermart.com, where we make you look even better. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.